Ever feel like we're living in a paradox?
Yeah.
Technology keeps getting better, faster, cheaper. Your phone's a supercomputer now, right?
Right?
But somehow, things just keep getting more expensive. It's like the rules of the game are rigged, and that's exactly the kind of head-scratcher that uh, Jeff Booth tackles in his article, The Greatest Game. He argues that Bitcoin might be the key to unlocking a whole new system.
It's a bold claim, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Booth, by the way, isn't just some techie on the sidelines. He's built successful companies, been in the trenches of innovation. And what he's saying is that we're on the verge of a massive economic shift. He calls it creative destruction.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of, say, the car replacing horse-drawn carriages, he thinks this time it's money itself getting disrupted.
Okay, I get the comparison, but honestly, that sounds huge. Like, what does that even look like in real life?
Well, think about what happened when the iPhone came out. Blackberry was king. Everyone had one, seemed untouchable. Then, bam, a completely new model, a total paradigm shift. And Blackberry basically vanished. Booth argues that the current money system, built on inflation, debt, all that, is like Blackberry. Comfortable, familiar, BUT. Ripe for disruption.
All right, so if that's the old guard, where does Bitcoin fit in? Is it really 10 times better, like Booth claims you need to be to shake things up?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Booth's argument is fascinating. He says Bitcoin's initial 10x advantage was as digital gold, way more secure, transparent, and transferable than traditional gold. But here's where things get really interesting. Most people trust gold because, well, it's always been valuable, right? Booth challenges that. Even our belief in gold's value is a social construct, not some unbreakable law of the universe.
Whoa. Okay, mind blown.
Yeah.
So if we can question the value of gold D, what does that mean for the dollar?
Exactly. And that's the crux of Booth's argument. Technology is inherently deflationary. Think how much cheaper computers are now than they were 20 years ago. But our current money system relies on inflation to survive. Those two things are on a collision course.
So Bitcoin being finite, designed for scarcity, throws a wrench in the whole thing. But honestly, I think a lot of people hear this and think it's all doom and gloom. Like, is the system really going to crash and burn?
Booth lays out a compelling argument for why that's a real possibility, and how the current system will likely respond to the pressure. It starts with central banks slashing interest rates to encourage growth, even if it's unsustainable long-term. It's like giving everyone cheaper loans, hoping they'll spend more and boost the economy.
Right, but that just creates these massive debt bubbles, doesn't it? Like kicking the can down the road and hoping for the best.
Exactly. And when those bubbles burst, as they inevitably do, what happens? Governments step in with bailouts, breaking their own rules to try and save the system. This creates even more distrust and instability. And that's where things get really interesting. That instability, it makes people crave control, centralized solutions, even though that's what caused the problem in the first place.
It's like we're hardwired to reach for the same old solutions even when they've stopped working.
It's a human instinct, isn't it? But here's the kicker, and it's almost comical. Governments scrambling to launch their own digital currencies to maintain control, it might actually backfire, accelerating Bitcoin's adoption.
Because people see right through it. Another attempt to rig the game, right?
Exactly. And when enough people lose faith in the old game, that's when the real cyber hornets are unleashed, to use Booth's term.
Okay, cyber hornets.
Yeah.
You got to explain this one.
Imagine a wave of innovation, but instead of being built on top of the existing financial system, it's all powered by Bitcoin. Think of it like the early internet. Back then, it was clunky, limited uses, nobody knew what it would become. Then, bam, it exploded, changing everything. Booth argues Bitcoin could be that foundation for a whole new wave of creativity and value creation.
So painting the picture of a world where Bitcoin wins, what does that actually look like? Everyone's buying pizza with digital coins.
It's bigger than just transactions. Booth gets in this really optimistic vision of a world driven by abundance, not scarcity.
Abundance. I mean, we live in a world with more stuff than ever, but it doesn't feel abundant, you know?
That's because the current system thrives on artificial scarcity. Booth uses the example of education. Right now, we're conditioned to think we need expensive degrees, but there's already a wealth of free knowledge online. Khan Academy, for example. That's abundance the system hasn't caught up with yet.
So are we saying college is going extinct?
Not necessarily.
Is it?
It's more about questioning why we value things. What if knowledge became truly abundant, freely accessible? How would that change our priorities, our pursuits? That's the kind of fundamental shift Booth is talking about.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this connects to the whole greatest game idea. It's not just about which currency wins. It's a whole new way of seeing value.
Exactly. And it challenges us to examine What else do we treat as scarce that might not be in a different system? What potential is being stifled by outdated rules?
All right, so no crystal ball. But let's say Bitcoin does become this dominant force. What happens to regular people? Do we all become day traders?
Booth isn't advocating for everyone to become financial experts. It's more about recognizing the power shift. Imagine a world where individuals have more control over their finances, where innovation isn't stifled by bureaucracy, where value is created more collaboratively. That's the potential he's highlighting.
It's like this whole other operating system for life, and we're just catching a glimpse of the code.
And that can be both exhilarating and daunting, right? We're so used to the current rules,
Yeah,
even when they're flawed.
totally. And I think for a lot of people listening, they're probably thinking, this is all well and good, but what does it mean for me on a Tuesday afternoon?
That's the question Booth really wants us to grapple with. He's not saying drop everything and buy Bitcoin tomorrow. He's advocating for a shift in perspective.
Okay, so less about specific actions, more about examining the why behind our choices.
Precisely. Let's say you're feeling stuck in your career, or maybe you're overwhelmed by the pressure to keep up financially. Booth's argument invites you to ask, is this truly serving me? Or am I playing by a set of rules that no longer make sense?
That's huge. It's like we're so busy playing the game, we forget to ask if we even want to be in the game anymore.
It's a trap many of us fall into. And it extends beyond just careers. Think about education, how we measure success, even how we define happiness. If the underlying system is based on scarcity, those values are going to reflect that.
So if we shift to a system that's more aligned with abundance, maybe our definitions of success and happiness change too.
Exactly. What if instead of constantly chasing after more, we focused on creating value, collaborating more freely, prioritizing experiences over possessions?
Like that old saying, what you own ends up owning you. Maybe this is about breaking free from that cycle.
That's the exciting potential Booth highlights.
That's okay.
It's not a utopia, it's a conscious evolution. We have the tools, the technology, and increasingly the awareness to create something new.
And it starts with asking those tough questions, right? Challenging our assumptions, being open to new possibilities.
Absolutely. It's about becoming active participants in shaping the future, not just passively accepting whatever comes our way.
That's a powerful message. And, you know, it's interesting thinking back to the article's title, The Greatest Game. It does feel like we're in this incredible moment of possibility, but also uncertainty.
The stakes are high,
Yeah.
but so is the potential payoff. And the most exciting part is we all have a role to play in how this unfolds.
It's a call to action for sure. And I think for anyone listening who's feeling even a little bit curious, a little bit fired up, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Exactly. Keep digging deeper, keep questioning, keep exploring. And who knows, maybe we'll create something truly remarkable together.
That's a wrap on this deep dive into the greatest game. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the potential downfall of the current financial system to the mind-blowing possibilities of a world driven by abundance. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. What resonated with you? What questions are still swirling around in your mind? Head over to our social media pages and share your reactions. And don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more explorations into the ideas shaping our world. Until next time, keep asking those big questions and keep diving deep.